Hello, and thank you for tuning in to this Mirror Facebook Live session on how to bring down your energy bills. I'm Sam Barker, a money reporter here at the Mirror, and I'm joined today by personal finance expert Lynn Beattie, perhaps better known as Mrs. Moneypenny, founder of the advice website Mrs. Moneypenny. Hello, Lynn. Very nice to have you on.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
And today we're going to tackle what is probably the number one personal finance issue of the day, which is rising energy bills. So these bills are going up because of several reasons, primarily the rising cost of gas. And with so much bad news in the world at the moment, it's very easy to switch off, put it out of sight, out of mind. We're not going to bombard you with doom and gloom today. What we are going to do is hopefully inject a bit of positivity and talk about the simple steps that we all take to help bring down the cost of our energy bills and put more money back in your pockets. So a few minutes of your time and we might be able to save you hundreds of pounds a year. Please do feel free to send over any questions during this chat. We'll do our absolute best to answer them. What we're not going to do, we're not going to get into saving money by switching your energy deal. That is a whole other episode. It is a massive subject. We have written about it for the Mirror website, so you can always go on there and kind of find these articles. What we're going to look at is cutting the cost of your current energy bill by using less power. And the first thing we're going to talk about is smart meters. So there's about 24 million smart meters in UK homes. So that's about 80% of homes now have one of these gizmos fitted. They monitor your electricity and gas use, and they replace kind of what is now increasingly kind of old-fashioned electric and gas meters. Now, as a little aside, there are a lot of problems with these meters for many households in terms of them not working the way they're supposed to. Again, that's a whole other issue. We're not going to get into that on this broadcast. So we're just going to talk assuming that you've got one fitted, and like most households with one of these things fitted, they work the way they should do. Now, Lynn, what I've been really impressed with is that you've obviously got a smart meter fitted, and kind of you've put a pound and pence figure on how much household appliances cost to run. And actually, when you look at this, it's staggering. You see it in black and white, how much some of these things cost. And you've actually managed to save £300 a year by getting savvy with your smart meter. What I was hoping was, maybe we can start with, can you talk us through some of your findings when you started kind of putting, doing this research and putting it together? What are some of the things you found with, how much it costs to run some of these household appliances, please?
Yeah, so I went through a bit of a admin exercise, let's call it, of where I spent like a week having a really intense look at my energy usage and using my smart meter as the sort of the tool to measure it. So what I do was I would isolate certain appliances, let's say the kettle, and I would boil the kettle when it was full, figure out how much energy that used and how much it cost as well, because my smart meter just converts it into the cost for me. And then I would do it with just 1 cup worth of water in the kettle and actually compare the difference. And then it's like starkly obvious, like how much you're saving by just boiling the kettle for 1 cup rather than, full, which is probably 5 cups. I don't know. But yeah. And then you multiply, you think how many cups of tea you make in a day. I've probably made like 4 cups so far today. You just multiply it through and there you've got a nice healthy saving.
Well, let's talk. Let's talk figures, because when you sort of see some of this, stuff, exactly how much it costs to run. I mean, really, it's it's made me think twice about how often I run certain electrical appliances. Talking about boiling the kettle. What are some of the sort of how much does it cost, and how have you found that you can save money just with that one item?
Yeah, so the kettle one isn't the most impressive one, is it? No. I think we should maybe start with the tumble dryer is actually the one that scared me the most. And I don't use my tumble dryer full stop anymore because it was costing me £1 per cycle to use. Now, there was a time when I had young children where that tumble dryer would be on like every day.
Right.
That's like £7 a week, like a tumble dryer is costing you. So instead, I've got like a clothes dryer. I actually got a heated one, which you do plug in, but it uses much less energy. And then when it's a little bit warmer, I've just got a regular one that I can actually just put out in the garden in the sunshine. And yeah, it's a huge amount of savings. So I think I based, if I assume that I use my tumble dryer, say twice a week, which is probably more realistic now, that's like £100 worth of savings in a year. So that's a lot for that one.
Yeah, it's absolutely staggering, isn't it? And another finding that you sort of came across, and I thought this was really interesting, was a shower timer. Because I think a lot of people, they go into the shower and it's kind of almost like, you're not really thinking too hard about how long you're spending in there. But what you found was that if you're kind of cutting that shower to 5 minutes a day, that you're saving £80 a year.
Yeah, and that's based on like 4 people having a shower every day. But and that's probably like a saving of maybe 2 or 3 minutes per person. But I just my children, and it takes a bit of time, like getting your children used to this kind of thing. And I think it's to buy your children into it is actually explaining to them why you're doing it and the impact of, like, my children know that my energy bills, our energy bills, have gone up by 70 quid, like just from March to April. So they know that they want to do things to help save money. So when they know it's sort of tangible things like spending three minutes less in a shower, which resulted in £70 worth of savings in a year, then they're up for it. And it's, I think with a lot of these changes, so it's behavioural things that you're just used to doing. So it's just getting used to new ways of doing it, spending less in the shower, switching lights off in the rooms you don't use, switching radiators off in the rooms you don't use. It's just getting into that habit of walking out of the room, switching the light off, and getting everybody in the household to do it as well, not just you.
I'm with you. And actually, you make a really interesting point, about kind of getting your kids on board with this as well. And definitely, I want to sort of come on to that in more detail. But I think if we're, we're still, let's talk a bit more about, the sort of pounds and pence savings that you get by how we use electricity, really. Obviously, one of the things where if you said to people, how can you save money in the home? And they would say, turn the lights off. Turn the lights off when you're not in the room. And what I found, really interesting is that, we all know this kind of, we've got it somewhere in our subconscious that, when you leave the room, you should turn the lights off. And if you don't, you feel guilty. But what you found was that actually by doing this, I can't quite find the figure actually, but did you look at the cost of turning off lights at all?
I did, and it wasn't huge.
Oh,
so
really?
I think there are some things that make like a bigger difference. Like one of the things that really surprised me was the amount of things that we leave on standby. Which again, that's just a habit of something we've always done. But if you think how many different appliances you've actually got in the house, like TVs, laptops, everything's left on standby, isn't it? And switching off all those things on standby actually came to like £30 of savings a year, which you think is 30 quid, but it's like it's quite a lot of money for just something that's so simple to not do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with a lot of what we're talking about today, we're talking about, small things that add up to a big thing. And, and really that's where we've got to be looking for a lot of these kind of savings, because, as we sort of said at the beginning, it's quite a difficult thing to, the old advice of, if you're paying too much on your energy bill, just switch, there'll be a cheaper deal, sort of doesn't really apply that much anymore. We're looking at these marginal kind of gains. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, if you've got an electrical appliance, microwave, TV, oven, anything with a clock, these things are all drawing power. And a lot of modern gadgets, they're sort of always in a kind of halfway powered up mode. And the idea is it's quicker for you. When you turn on the TV, it doesn't take as long as it used to, because it's drawing power and it's ready for you to press that on button. But of course, you're paying for that convenience increasingly. And I think that, yeah, getting into the habit, as you say, it's a habit forming exercise, but it can make a real difference to you know, to the pounds and pence in all of our
absolutely.
pockets.
The thermostat one is one of the biggies as
Yeah.
well, though, which so by turning your thermostat down by just 1 degree will save you £80 a year. So turn it down by 2 degrees, that's £160 a year. So I read some research which I find a little bit hard to believe, that people in the winter have their temperature on at like 24 degrees, which I do not have my temperature on at 24 degrees in my house. But then maybe I've just got used to living in a cooler temperature because I've done this like over the years. Like I think I've got down to like 19 degrees as being an all right temperature. And maybe like you sit next to the radiator like I used to do when I was a child, sit next to the fire to keep a bit warmer. But yeah, it's big savings for just that 1 degree reduction on your thermostat.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that it really does hammer home, doesn't it? Yeah, very, very small changes that you probably wouldn't even notice in terms of temperature. You really are going to notice when those energy bills come in. So one thing which I said it would be really good to kind of come back to, and we've sort of slightly touched on it, but it's that, you know, cutting down on energy bills, it's not just the job for, you know, the heads of the household. You know, it's a lot of work, and actually, you know, recruiting your family can make, you know, a huge difference. Obviously, you know, you've sort of managed to kind of rope in some of your children, but in a way that, you know, it's not work for them. It sounds like they're getting something out of it too, and they're enjoying it, and they feel like they're making a difference.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I did like this might sound a little bit weird, but it was like a challenge with my children where I gave them like ownership of like the energy bill for a week each to see who could come out with the lowest like energy bill for that week. So each child then took on the responsibility, and it was a competition. So whoever you know came in with the lowest bill won, I don't know, some chocolate or something, or maybe a little bit of money that motivates them more. So yeah, they took on that responsibility and that ownership for the energy that week, and that really sort of brought home all the different things they needed to do. So it was like just turning like a fun little game into, I mean, it's actually quite a serious topic, but turning it into a fun game really made the children understand it and really engage with it. And I think that's what you need to do with the children to really get them. I think be open and honest, talking to children about money. I've always done that with my children from a young age, so they understand how much things cost. And I just think not overly worrying them, you know, if things are quite stressful at home, but I just think making children aware that they can't be wasting money because the energy bill's gone up by £100 a month and we need to find money from elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, it's great advice to kind of, you know, it's don't scare them, you know, but sort of it's financial education as well, isn't it? You know, I don't know about you, but I certainly felt like I went through school and I came out the other side and I knew an awful lot about, you know, Shakespeare and, you know, geometry and things like this, but you don't really understand how bills work, taxes, savings, mortgages, anything like this. I think it is getting better overall. I think we, you know, equipping our children with the skills they need to save money is so important, and that's you know, that is a really good way of doing that. So thank you. I just wanted to sort of take a quick moment just to sort of address some of the kind of the comments that we've had coming through on Facebook. Thank you very much for those. You know, any questions you've got, please do fire away. We'll do our level best to answer them. And you know, Gordon Trustwell, he makes the very good point that you know, some of this, it might be slightly age dependent. You know, he mentions he's got an 80-year-old mother in the house who feels cold at 20 degrees. Yes, younger people can cope. They find it very difficult. Yeah, absolutely. That is true. And you know, for anybody in that position, you know, I feel for you. And yes, you know, you're gonna, the kind of real world impact of this is going to be greater than it is on, you know, on someone who's younger. I would also, you know, sort of encourage you to, if you haven't already, have a look for some of the energy saving schemes which are open to older people on means tested benefits in particularly cold bits of the country. You know, if you email mirror.money.saving at mirror.co.uk. That's mirror.money.saving@mirror.co.uk. We've got reams of this stuff we can send you, and there's free money out there from the government for people in that position, and it might well be that it's a great help for when weather starts getting cold. So yeah, thank you very much. And as I say, any questions at all, feel free to chime in. We've got people at the Mirror going through them. We'll post them up and we'll get around to answering them. Right, and so Lynn, as well as talking about smart meters, you've also got some great advice on other ways of bringing down your energy usage and obviously therefore bringing down your energy bills. And this is everything ranging from light bulbs to batch cooking and more. So what are some of the things that really kind of you would kind of jump to as big kind of other ways, not smart meter related, ways that we can bring down our energy costs, please?
Yeah, so I think great way of cooking is using a slow cooker. So microwaves, induction hobs. Induction hobs are really, really greedy with energy usage, and ovens as well. They use a lot of energy. So switch to the slow cooker if you can. And great at the moment, really warming stew. It's also, you can do some really cheap meals in a slow cooker as well, like lots of vegetables stew together. So yeah, that's a great way to save some money. So I say that I've not used a tumble dryer for a few years. Another thing that I haven't used for a few years is a hair dryer. Right. I'm really surprised that hair dryers use a lot of energy, but hair straighteners don't, which was weird. But I rarely use either anymore because well, just let my hair dry naturally. Maybe I'm lucky with straight hair. I know it's different when you've got curly hair, but yeah, that was a great way to save some money. So I've got I'm in a house by myself during the day when my children are at school. So just go around switching off your radiators in rooms that you're not using. You might have a couple of rooms in your house that, like, say the downstairs loo or whatever, that isn't used very much, maybe. Then make sure you don't have the radiator switched on in those rooms. I've got a radiator in my hallway. Like, do you really need that radiator switched on? So be selective about the radiators that actually work. They don't necessarily need to be on full either, so you can turn them down on the radiator on the sort of valve on the side. Keep your curtains shut, blinds down, drawing in the heat. Draft excluders, which you can make with like an old pair of tights stuffed with old clothes, old t-shirts, old socks, particularly on your doors that are leading to the outside of your house. Insulation in your loft is a really important one. I think that's actually the place where most sort of heat is lost from a house, is up through the roof. So make sure that your loft is properly insulated. But yeah, there's and I saw somebody put a comment about jumpers. Layer up, like do that. I've spent most of this winter wearing like 3 jumpers at home just so I don't have to put the heating on during the day when the kids are at school. But yeah, it's a good one.
It is, and we've had a question pop up. This is from Francis Elizabeth Mourinho James, and she says, "What are the big things that draw energy?" So I think over the course of the call, we probably touched on a few of these, but perhaps it's worth a little recap. I think a big category is things that produce heat. So we've said hair, obviously hair dryers. The oven, obviously the kettle, but yeah, probably someone who's very well placed to answer this, given your kind of smart meter knowledge, Lynn. Let's just have a quick recap of some of the things. What are the thirstiest items for energy?
Well, the heating the house is absolutely. So there are some people that have the heating on like all the time, the whole day long, sort of 12 hours a day. Then that is going to take up a lot of energy use. It is, particularly if you've got it on the 24 degrees, which is apparently the average temperature in the winter. So yeah, turn that down. Cooking, all the electrical items that you've got going at the same time. If you've got a busy house, lots of people in the house, people on computer consoles, charging their phones, people on laptops, then yeah, that's all going to be using energy. But I think anything that does like a burst of energy at the same time. So the kettle, when you boil it, it's like it's a short, sharp burst of energy into that one thing for a short period of time. It's quite a lot of energy that goes into that kettle. So yeah, when you put the oven on and you're heating it up for the first sort of 5-10 minutes, then yeah, that uses a lot. So those are all the things that are quite thirsty. And yeah, the tumble dryer, absolutely the worst for it. Washing machine, actually, the washing machine wasn't that bad. But then you've got water usage with dishwasher and washing machine. I always use the eco settings on those appliances to save the water and the energy.
That's fantastic. And I noticed we've got another comment here from Doreen Elwell. And she says £30 a year to turn off items on standby may not be a massive saving. It would be great for the environment. I mean, I think, massive. I mean, that's probably a bit of a matter of perspective. I think, what we're talking about is, it's a lot of small things adding up to a big thing.
Yeah.
And £30 a year, some of the bits which Lynn's managed to do, obviously, £300 a year probably sounds like quite a lot. And if you sort of go through and you kind of do this quite methodically, that's not an unrealistic thing to save. But you make an excellent point that it is great for the environment. And there's no getting away from that. I think maybe it's slightly overlooked at the moment because we're worrying so much about just the cost of these things. But it's a great point, and we shouldn't lose sight of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a win-win, isn't it? You're using less energy and you're reducing your bill as well as helping the environment. It's, I think the interesting point about using less energy, which is certainly what I've made a big effort to use a lot less energy this past year. So my direct debits were set on my usage from 2020. So they were set quite high. But what happens is when you use less energy, so your direct debits will probably carry on at the same amount, but you won't be using as much energy. So you're going to be building up like more of a credit in your electricity account because you just pay the same direct debit each month, don't you? Now, I don't let any credit sit in my energy accounts. I mean, everybody's got different views on this. Some people like to leave a credit in there to cover them for winter. But what I like to have is my direct debit to cover my winter usage. And then I almost like gain a little bit back in the summer. And whenever there's a credit sat there in my energy account, I take it out and I have it in my bank account. I don't like it to be in my energy company's accounts because it's my money.
Yeah, I think that's very wise. And obviously there'll be, that money, when it's all rounded up, they're off investing that money and making quite a pretty penny. So it's far better, sitting in your bank account than theirs. So we've had a couple of comments here. I'm not necessarily going to read them out because some of them aren't fit for kind of pre-watershed time. But just to sort of address it, people are saying, "Oh, well, you're talking about these are small things you're talking about." I really think it is worth hammering the point home. I'd love to be able to give you, 5 things to go away and do that will slash your energy bill in half. We can't do it. It's not possible. The only thing we can do is give you pointers, advice, ways that you can, with the tools that most of us have got, and the ability and the time that most of us have got to bring the energy bill down. It breaks my heart, and I know Lynn's the same. We get emails from people every day. I can't afford these bills. I'm facing poverty. I can't afford to cook and heat my house. Nothing would make me happier than being able to, come out with a load of, really whizzy advice. But this is what we're doing. It's usable advice. I think it's practical, and we can. It will make a real difference. Absolutely promise you. Great. So we've got another question here from Sherilyn Burgess, and she says, "Is electricity more cost effective than gas?" That is a good question. That is a really good question. I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
When you think of like heating, so electric storage heaters, really expensive, really greedy. Gas is not as much. So in that circumstance, gas is certainly better. If you ever had to be in a situation where maybe your heating's gone, you have to rely on storage heaters. They're just awful for the electricity bill.
Yeah, this is it. And so we've got a question here or comment here from Amy McCutcheon. She says, be mindful where your thermostat is. If we turn off some radiators where the thermostat is, it can make other rooms unbearably hot. Ours is near our front door. Yeah, I think that is, that is really good advice, because I believe I'm right in saying the way that a lot of these thermostats work is that it's to do with the air temperature around the unit itself. So some of them are put in places that are, fairly illogical, by the front door or above a radiator and things like this. So, when you hear it kind of click, that's the point at which the kind of air temperature, this is the case for the old fashioned ones anyway, which is what we've got here. The kind of air temperature around it is at the temperature which it says on the temperature dial. So you're right, if you've got your thermostat above a radiator or a heat source, you've got to bear that in mind. Chantal Jones says, one thing I've been told is to take your readings now and also on 31st of March, so you can't be charged with the new rate for that period. So I think what that refers to is that energy bills, the price of a lot of energy bills will increase for people on default tariffs from the 1st of April, which is when the price cap set by Ofgem, the energy regulator, for people on these tariffs increases. And it's also used as a bit of a yardstick by energy companies for their fixed rate tariffs as well. I think about 70–80% of the country now is no longer on a fixed rate tariff, because they've worked out that it's cheaper most of the time to be on a default. But yes, that is very good advice. I would also say that energy companies' admin, by and large, is absolutely awful. So, it is absolutely worth, especially now, make a note of your meter readings, because energy companies get it wrong all the time. They very rarely, I'm going to sound cynical here, but they very rarely get it wrong in a way that costs them money, not you.
Although if it's a smart meter,
it's a smart meter, then it's
agreed.
Yeah, I mean, smart meters, when they work, I mean, we all kind of have written stories in the past about what happens when these things go haywire, and sometimes they do. I was speaking to a guy the other day who had a smart meter. It was installed in his house. It had previously been in another house, and for some reason it was still operating as if it was a family of 6, and he was just a pensioner by himself. So he's getting these wacky great big energy bills. But agreed, yeah, when they work properly, they should eradicate that problem. Now, I appreciate the time. We said we'd keep you for 20 minutes, and we've just been getting so into it. We've had so many questions that we kind of got ahead of ourselves. We're slightly overrunning. So I think we've probably got time for maybe one more question or one more comment, if anyone's got a quick one. Okay, here we go. So the final one. So Susan Tyler James says, I had a smart meter fitted over 2 years ago by Scottish Power. Funnily enough, that was the same one in the story I was just talking about there. Never worked properly. Now it meters electricity but not gas. Don't have the small gadget to monitor. What a waste of time and money. Well, Susan, all I can say is that anyone who's been a financial journalist will know this is very common. A lot of the time, there's been big problems with the rollout. There's been big delays to the government expectations of when they were going to get these things fitted. It's been beset with problems. I think the only thing I can say is that whilst they can be a headache for some households, they work well for most households, and hopefully a lot of that stuff will get ironed out. I'm sorry to hear about that problem with Scottish Power. You're not the only person. In fact, half of the people that talk to me about this problem with smart meters is Scottish Power. I don't know why. Maybe that's something that we need to look into as journalists over here. You might have given us our next story idea there, so thank you very much. But yeah, so when they work properly, which they should do most of the time, as well as kind of being an accurate way of billing, they're also quite a useful way, as we've spoken about today, of kind of keeping your energy costs low by getting analytical about what is costing you the most in your house. But yeah, I just wanted to say, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you found some of this useful. It's been really interesting, hearing some of your comments, and thank you. We do read every single comment. Lynn, I wanted to say as well, thank you very much for giving up some of your time today to be on the show. It's been really, really useful. And yeah, I want to say thank you, everybody. And every Thursday at 1 o'clock, we run a similar session to this on the Mirror Facebook page. And we'll kind of go through a big topic every week, and hopefully we'll be putting more pounds back in your pocket. So thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.